The footage changes everything. Nick Aldis stood before the media with a look that said he'd been carrying the weight of a secret for weeks, and when the video finally played, the entire wrestling world stopped breathing. At WrestleMania 41, Bayley was attacked in the backstage corridors moments before she was set to make her entrance. The attack left her battered, nearly unable to compete, and sparked speculation, rumors, and finger-pointing across the WWE Universe. Until now, the identity of her assailant had been hidden in a shroud of silence. Tonight, that silence was broken, and the name behind it was more shocking than anyone could have ever imagined. The screen lit up with grainy yet unmistakable surveillance footage. Bayley can be seen walking down a dimly lit hallway, preparing herself mentally for what was supposed to be one of the biggest matches of her career. Suddenly, from behind, a figure in black strikes her down. The assault is swift, merciless, and calculated. At first glance, the person seems completely anonymous. But as Nick Aldis promised, enhancements and angles revealed what no one wanted to believe. It wasn't some unknown rival, it wasn't a returning star trying to make a statement. It was Becky Lynch. Yes, Becky Lynch. The very same Becky who had stood alongside Bayley in the past. The same Becky who had fought through wars with her in the Four Horsewomen era, building women's wrestling into the global phenomenon it is today. The revelation sent shockwaves through every fan, every analyst, and every wrestler watching the footage. How could one of the most celebrated figures in WWE history turn on someone she'd once called a sister in arms? And more importantly, why? Nick Aldis explained that WWE management had held this footage back for weeks, unwilling to release it without confirmation. According to him, there was a battle within the higher UPS about whether this truth should even be made public. The risk of fan backlash, the chaos it could cause in the women's division, and the tarnishing of Becky Lynch's legacy were all reasons floated around to bury the evidence. But Bayley herself demanded transparency, and Aldis, in his new role as general manager, promised accountability. Tonight, he kept that promise, and in doing so, he exposed one of the darkest betrayals in WrestleMania history. The attack itself was brutal. Becky used no weapons, just raw aggression, throwing Bayley into steel crates and slamming her face against concrete walls. The intent wasn't just to hurt, it was to cripple, to make sure Bayley entered the match compromised. And as the world remembers, Bayley fought her way to the ring anyway, barely holding herself together, putting on a performance that fans applauded as courageous. Now, with the truth out, that courage feels even more haunting. She wasn't just fighting an opponent in the ring, she was fighting betrayal from someone she once trusted more than anyone. Becky Lynch's involvement raises countless questions. Was this sanctioned by someone else? Was it personal jealousy boiling over? Or was Becky simply desperate to reclaim a spotlight that Bayley had begun to shine brighter in? WrestleMania 41 was supposed to be Bayley's coronation, a defining moment in her storied career. But if Becky wanted to make sure that coronation never happened, then her plan nearly succeeded. As the footage played again on loop during the press release, the silence in the room was deafening. Analysts were frozen, reporters were wide-eyed, and even Nick Aldis looked as if he was still processing the reality of what he had shared. This wasn't just a heel turn in storyline. This was an exposure of a calculated attack that blurred the lines between fiction and reality. WWE's credibility, Becky's reputation, and Bayley's career trajectory all hang in the balance. The fallout backstage has been equally explosive. Sources indicate that Bayley confronted Becky immediately after learning the truth, but officials separated them before things could escalate. Becky, for her part, has reportedly shown no remorse. Insiders claim she believes Bayley has overshadowed her, that her time as the man was being erased by Bayley's resurgence. WrestleMania 41 may have been Becky's breaking point, the moment she decided to reassert her dominance in the most unforgivable way possible. WWE now finds itself at a crossroads. Do they punish one of their biggest stars for an unsanctioned backstage assault? Or do they use the incident to fuel one of the most personal rivalries in women's wrestling history? Whatever the decision, fans will not forget that they were kept in the dark for weeks. That deception may be just as damaging as Becky's attack itself. The footage has since been analyzed frame by frame. Slow-motion breakdowns confirm the attacker's stance, hair, and movements all align with Becky Lynch. Even without a clear shot of her face, the evidence is irrefutable. A second camera angle, reportedly pulled from a security feed across the hall, sealed the case by capturing Becky's profile as she left the scene, put down for only a moment. It was all the confirmation Nick Aldis needed. For Bayley, this is more than a physical wound. It's a deep emotional scar, carved by someone who knew her better than most. The two shared history that spanned over a decade from NXT beginnings to WrestleMania main events. To have that trust shattered on the grandest stage of them all is a betrayal fans will talk about for years. This isn't just another feud. This is the unraveling of one of wrestling's most iconic bonds. And as if the betrayal itself wasn't enough, the timing couldn't have been worse. Bayley had been riding one of the hottest waves of momentum in her career. She'd finally clawed her way back from injuries, creative setbacks, and years of being underappreciated. WrestleMania 41 was meant to be her statement that she belonged at the very top, not just as a placeholder, but as the woman to carry the division forward. Becky Lynch's attack was a direct attempt to stop that ascension dead in its tracks. Speculation now swirls around WWE's creative direction. Was this part of a larger storyline designed months in advance, or did real-life tensions spill over into something darker that WWE only later chose to spin into canon? Sources are divided. Some believe Becky had been growing frustrated with her role backstage, watching Bayley soak in opportunities she felt were hers by right. Others suggest that Becky and WWE management were in conflict, and this unsanctioned attack was her way of making a point, a dangerous point that has now become the company's biggest headache. Bayley, to her credit, has remained composed publicly. In a short statement, she said only this: "I'll deal with Becky. Not here, not in the press, but in that ring." Those words may sound restrained, but anyone who has followed Bayley's career knows the fire that burns beneath them. She isn't the naive hugger anymore. She isn't the smiling face of NXT. She's a hardened veteran who has clawed her way back to relevance, and now she has the perfect target to unleash years of pent-up frustration on. The WWE Universe now waits with anticipation and fury. Fury at Becky for betraying a sister. Fury at WWE for hiding the truth. And fury at the idea that Bayley's crowning moment at WrestleMania 41 was stolen from her not by chance, but by design. Fans don't forgive easily, and they certainly don't forget. Becky Lynch may have just cemented herself as the most reviled figure in WWE today. Nick Aldis has promised that further disciplinary decisions will be announced soon, but given Becky's star power, few believe WWE will hand down any real punishment. That, in itself, may fuel the flames of outrage even further. Is Becky Lynch untouchable? Has her legacy earned her a free pass to commit one of the most unforgivable acts in WrestleMania history? Or will Bayley be given the chance to exact her revenge in the only way that matters, inside the ring? The release of Nick Aldis footage has not only thrown Becky Lynch into the eye of a storm but has placed WWE itself under a microscope. Questions about integrity, transparency, and accountability are being raised louder than ever before. The women's division, which has been built on a foundation of breaking barriers and uplifting each other, suddenly finds itself divided by one of the most personal betrayals in its history. Becky Lynch has yet to make a public statement. Her silence is deafening. For a superstar who has built her brand on defiance, confidence, and standing up to authority, her refusal to address the footage suggests one of two things: either she has no defense, or she is waiting for the perfect stage to explain her actions in a way that only Becky can. But what explanation could possibly justify this? What reasoning could make fans see past the sight of Bayley lying broken in the hallway of WrestleMania 41, beaten by someone who was supposed to be her equal, her ally, even her sister in arms? Insiders reveal that Becky has been increasingly isolated backstage. The friendships that once defined her career have frayed. Charlotte Flair, who has her own complicated history with both Becky and Bayley, is said to be disgusted by the revelation. Sasha Banks, though currently absent from WWE, reportedly sent private messages of support to Bayley after the footage aired. This fracture within the Four Horsewomen, a group that once stood as the pillars of women's wrestling, may now be irreparably broken. The symbolism is impossible to ignore. The Four Horsewomen, who together redefined the perception of women's wrestling, are now at odds in a way that could never be repaired. What began as friendly competition, then evolved into rivalries, has now descended into betrayal and violence. Becky's assault on Bayley wasn't just an attack on a person, it was an attack on the legacy they all built together. For WWE, this is dangerous territory. The company thrives on storylines, but it also relies heavily on fan trust. The revelation that they sat on this footage for weeks, intentionally keeping fans in the dark, feels to many like a breach of that trust. If the company is willing to hide something this explosive, what else are they capable of concealing? The backlash isn't just aimed at Becky, it's aimed at WWE's leadership, with Nick Aldis himself caught in the crossfire for taking so long to come forward. But Aldis maintains that he did the right thing. In his words, "The truth always comes out, and I'd rather it come from me than from someone else leaking it." That sentiment may carry weight, but it doesn't erase the perception that WWE had something to gain by delaying the truth. And what they gained was time to prepare, time to spin, and time to control the fallout. Now, the conversation turns to Bayley's next move. The wrestler who was once considered the heart of the division has been placed in a position where revenge is not just desired, but demanded. Fans are clamoring for Bayley to be given a chance to face Becky Lynch one-on-one, with no interference, no backstage corridors, no sneak attacks, just the two of them in a ring, with the world watching. Such a match would be one of the most anticipated in years, not just for the athletic competition, but for the sheer emotional weight behind it. Bayley, however, may not be rushing into this. Her calculated statement suggests patience. She knows the damage Becky has done to her physically and mentally, and she may be waiting for the right moment to unleash everything she has bottled up inside. And when that moment comes, WWE could have on its hands one of the most intense and personal rivalries in modern history. Becky Lynch, once the hero of millions, now finds herself teetering on the edge of becoming the most despised figure in wrestling. This isn't a storyline turned fans can cheer for. This isn't a calculated heel run. This is betrayal in its rawest form. Fans aren't booing because they're playing along, they're booing because they feel hurt, misled, and angry. That level of real emotion is rare, and it makes this situation even more volatile. The implications stretch beyond just Bayley and Becky. Other women in the division now wonder what this means for them. If Becky was willing to take out Bayley in secret, what's stopping her from targeting others in pursuit of her goals? Does WWE have a locker room leader they can trust to restore order, or has Becky's betrayal shattered the sense of unity that once held the division together? This chaos has also drawn the attention of the men's locker room. Several superstars, off the record, have expressed concern about WWE's decision to cover up the footage. Some have even hinted at solidarity with Bayley, ready to speak out if necessary. That kind of cross-divisional unrest is rare, and it signals just how deeply this revelation has shaken the company to its core. And then there's the fans. They may not be the ones taking bumps in the ring, but they are the heartbeat of WWE, and right now that heartbeat is pounding with outrage. Social media may be silenced from this narrative per your preference, but the reality is that fans everywhere are demanding accountability. WWE can't simply write this off as storyline. They can't simply hope it fades away. Not when the video evidence is this clear, and not when emotions are this raw. Looking ahead, the most likely scenario is a showdown between Bayley and Becky Lynch on one of WWE's biggest stages. SummerSlam, perhaps. Or maybe Survivor Series, where the themes of loyalty and betrayal would cut deeper than ever. Wherever it happens, it must happen, because anything less would feel like WWE refusing to give Bayley justice. But what if Bayley doesn't just want justice in the ring? What if she wants Becky punished beyond storyline? Could WWE suspend Becky? Could they fine her? Could they strip her of opportunities moving forward? These are questions the company doesn't want to answer, because any real punishment to Becky Lynch means risking backlash from her loyal fanbase, as well as losing one of their top stars in a division already thin at the top. Yet, doing nothing makes them look complicit in her actions. It's a lose-lose scenario. Still, it's Bayley who holds the emotional high ground. Fans see her as the victim who kept fighting despite the odds, who put on a WrestleMania performance under the shadow of betrayal, and who now has the chance to turn her pain into the biggest comeback of her career. That kind of narrative writes itself, and WWE would be foolish not to lean into it. Meanwhile, Becky Lynch faces a crossroads. If she doubles down, refusing to apologize or explain, she risks alienating her entire fanbase permanently. If she attempts to justify her actions, she may open old wounds and admit to insecurities that clash with her image as the man. Either way, Becky's legacy will never be the same. She can no longer be seen as the unbreakable, untouchable icon who carried the women's division on her back. Now, she will forever be remembered as the woman who betrayed Bayley at WrestleMania 41. This moment will define both women for years to come. For Bayley, it could be the start of her ultimate redemption arc, the story of a wrestler who overcame betrayal to finally claim her rightful place at the top. For Becky, it could be the downfall of a legend, a cautionary tale of how ambition and jealousy can destroy everything you've built. The footage was more than just evidence. It was a revelation, a mirror held up to the darker side of wrestling's most celebrated figures. And now that it's out, there is no going back. The WWE Universe has seen it, they've felt it, and they won't rest until the score is settled. Nick Aldis' decision to reveal the truth may have opened Pandora's box, but it was a box that needed to be opened. The wrestling world deserves honesty, no matter how painful it may be. And the pain right now is immense. Bayley is hurt, betrayed, and scarred. Becky is exposed, vilified, and cornered. WWE is fractured, reeling, and scrambling. WrestleMania 41 was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it has become a crime scene in wrestling history, one where the attacker's face is now clear, the motive still clouded, and the consequences only beginning to unfold. The truth is out. The world knows. And from this moment forward, nothing in WWE will ever be the same again.